Marco Polo's caravan starts its journey across the Gobi Desert. Marco writes in his diary that the doctor is acting like a petulant teenager, throwing insults around like profane confetti and staying sulkily in his tent. They stop for the night and everyone, except the doctor, is enjoying a meal. Ian asks how much water they will use in their desert crossing. Only 3 days in and mealtime conversation is already starting to sound desperate. Tigana rather luridly describes the remains of unprepared travellers. The mention of a pale bone reminds Marco of the doctor's continued self-isolation. Susan goes to take the doctor some food. Marco challenges Ian to a game of chess. Barbara admires his perfectly sculpted bishop. Susan returns with the doctor's food. It appears he's gone on hunger strike. Tigana waxes lyrical about the game of chess, and definitely not in a manner fat with foreboding either.
I find it a fascinating game of strategy of war. 2 equally balanced armies deployed upon a field of battle, and each commander determined to be the one who cries Shamat. It means the king is dead.
Outside the tent, Barbara talks to Susan. Susan is frustrated by the whole situation and just wants to be out exploring the universe, like grandfather, like granddaughter.
Defenseless. He has a wonderful machine capable of all sorts of miracles. It's taken away from him by a man he calls a primitive. Look, TARDIS is the only home...
TARDIS? 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 No definite article. That's it. The show's ruined. Don't these people have any respect for the sanctity of continuity? They call it the ship. After her heart-to-heart with Barbara, Susan goes back inside and sees the men playing with each other. Chess? They're playing chess? Look, possibly strip chess, but still chess. Susan goes to bed, only to find Ping Cho still awake. They decide to look at the moon over the desert at midnight. Later that night, Ping Cho and Susan sneak outside to check out the clear desert night. They see Tigana and decide to follow him. Hopefully he isn't just going behind one of the dunes to relieve himself. He doesn't have any reading material, so at least it definitely won't be a number 2. The sounds of horses wake Marco and Ian. Marco sniffs the air, and as there are no wafts coming from the latrine dune, deduces that a sandstorm is coming. Out in the dunes, Susan and Ping Cho continue to follow Tigana. As the girls decide to head back, they start to hear a spooky whistling, and then Susan sees a sandstorm on the horizon. Unable to make it back to the camp on time, they take cover at the bottom of the nearest dune. At the camp, the noise wakes Barbara. Marco insists the storm sounds like musical instruments. He doesn't specify what it sounds like is being done to said musical instruments, but they're certainly not being played in the conventional sense.
The trouble is that the Gobi Desert have good reason to fear the singing sands, Barbara.
They realise Tigana is missing, and Barbara goes to check on the girls. Realising they've gone as well, she tries to go after them, but is held back by the men. Out in the desert, the girls hear Ian calling. Ping Chow thinks it's part of the sandstorm. Susan climbs up the dune, only to be confronted by a menacing figure. At the tent, Ian and Barbara argue about looking for the girls. Before things get too heated, Susan and Ping Chow are returned with an accompanying Tigana. Susan glares at Ping Chow for convincing her to go out, hoping the others catch her not so subtle look. Susan asks if her grandfather was worried, only to be told he's still asleep. Whatever he's doing while self-isolating, it's properly wearing him out. Marco is irritated with all of them and starts preparing for the next day's part of the journey. Tigana sneaks out again and looks longingly at the bottle of poison. After a 15-mile journey, the camp settles down for another night. Whilst brushing their hair, the girls talk about Tigana's late-night walk. Susan is suspicious of him, while Ping Chow can't conceive of him lying. While Marco is writing in his diary, Tigana polishes his weapon, readying himself for another round of strip chess. He asks Marco what he's doing and why. When his request for a saucy short story is refused, he wields his gleaming sword. Marco swiftly unsheathes his own blade. They touch tips and then, satisfied, Tigana leaves Marco to his writing. Outside, Tigana distracts a guard by showing off his whistling skills. Then he cuts open the water gourds for the rest of the journey. The next day, Marco, Ian and Tigana look over the damage. They only have one gourd left, leaving them just enough water, with rationing, to head back to Lop. Fearing a raid from the anti-caravanning club, they decide to press on to a nearby oasis. Marco continues to write in his diary as they make increasingly slow progress towards the oasis. After several days of travel, the water finally runs out before they reach the oasis. Tigana offers to go to the oasis alone and bring back water as the rest of the caravan limp on. The doctor finally shows his face again, only to immediately collapse. Marco allows him to be placed in the TARDIS where he'll be more comfortable. Oh, sorry, I meant in TARDIS. At the oasis, Tigana's having a great time splashing around in the cool waters like it's a 13th century water park.